Hey everyone, welcome back to Victorious Essentials. So after the last time we spoke a little bit about changing the way you look at grocery shopping and meal planning and kind of how to navigate the grocery store when you're going through. So after that last video, I did have a couple questions come up like, well, we didn't talk about the egg department, the dairy department, and what are my feelings about things like dairy. So today I wanted to touch on that a little bit because this dairy is one that can have a huge impact on your hormones. And again, we're coming from the aspect of fertility, so we really want to touch on this. I was going to wait till later, but since we're sitting here talking about how we're going to get our groceries, let's talk about the reasons dairy has become such a big deal lately, right? So in the past, it was always milk does your body good, right? And there's lots of celebrities that have gone on to do the ads with the milk mustache and everything, promoting by the dairy companies how great it can be for you. And there's a huge debate on it now. There's a lot of milk alternatives out there and people are a little confused on what they should or shouldn't have. So I want to give you a perspective as far as fertility goes on what kind of impact dairy can have on your life, what I do and how I feel about dairy and why, and then what we can do to make the changes in your diet. So as far as my background, I grew up in a family that had a farming history. So they grew up on a lot of dairy. I was raised on a lot of dairy. We were a family of four. Between the four of us, just my dad and my brother and I drank milk. And we would go through 4 gallons of milk a week, easy. That's not including other dairy sources that we had, including cheese, which we had every day, whether it was at lunch or dinner. Snack. I mean, I recall my dad's go-to snack when he would come home. He worked shift work, so when he would come home before he went to bed or when he'd just get home and be hungry, he would get out the cheddar block, cut a slice of cheddar cheese, put a squirt of ranch on it, a drop of Tabasco. Sounds simple, but for some reason he loved it, and he would be talking and just munching on those one after another. And so dairy played a big staple in our lives, and it was a part of almost every meal. If my mom made a special breakfast, it was usually some sort of big casserole that had cheese, included in it. So for me and for a lot of people, why we have dairy in our life is because it's been such a big part of cooking and baking, right? For generations. The second part is, like my parents, many people have been told that dairy is needed for bone health. You want to make sure you drink a lot of milk if you want to have strong bones. And anybody who doesn't, that's why they have osteoporosis, or they will have osteoporosis or something like that. So, for one, let's debunk this myth a little bit. The myth that dairy actually promotes bone health, because there are multiple studies out there showing that bone health is actually decreased due to too much consumption of dairy or some of these other calcium alternatives. And that it actually also contributes to increased other more serious side effects like kidney stones. Prostate cancer has been very highly linked to increased levels of dairy in your diet. So keeping these things in mind as well as I go through this, that a lot of the things we have been told or studies had been done in the past have been done by companies who want you to consume dairy. So looking past that, doing a little bit more research and finding out some more details about what kind of things dairy does have, because one thing that is consistent across the board is that dairy equals inflammation, and inflammation equals disease process. So if dairy equals disease in some way, shape, or form due to inflammation, is it really something that we need? Well, that comes to the third reason that we have dairy in our diet, and that's pure addiction. There's no difference in the response I get when I ask somebody to stop smoking or I ask somebody to cut out cheese. It is literally the same. The immediate silence where they go inside and try and almost become this defensive, like, well, I can't take out cheese. Or I'll do what you tell me to, whatever I need to do to get healthy, but I'm not going to get rid of my cheese. I'll do whatever I want, but I'm not going to quit smoking. It is literally along the same lines. And dairy triggers those same type of hormones and the same kind of response in our body that initiates those addictive personality traits. So it's not an easy one to get rid of, and it is a challenge. People can become very defensive when they get told that they, or asked even, to just remove dairy from their diet. It's a big staple one. So let's talk about the reasons why it's probably a better idea to start thinking about getting dairy out of your diet. So for one, number one, humans are the only animals that continue to drink milk after infancy. Okay, so animals drink milk from their mothers until they get to a point where they don't need it anymore. Their digestive tract is ready to start receiving food. But humans continue to consume milk from other animals, which leads me to the second reason. The second reason is cow milk is biologically designed to grow a 2,000-pound cow. Now, I don't know about you, and again, this isn't a weight loss video, this is about fertility, but I am not here to, my goal is not to be a 2,000-pound cow. My goal is not to raise a couple 2,000-pound cows. And the inflammation that we will get as humans for consuming this definitely lead on the side of weight gain. It affects our hormones. And I mean, it affects our hormones in a way that you could stop right now and look at our youth today, especially in the females, and the age that has changed of when menses is starting. Menses is when we first start our period, when that is starting in youth. So, a little over 100 years ago, my great-grandmother was married off at the age of 15 and to start having children, because at the age of 15 was more the average. 15, 16 years old, females would start their menses, which meant they were old enough to reproduce, which meant they were old enough to get married. When I was a kid, the average age was more like 13 to 15. Now, there are girls that are 10 and 11 years old starting menses. Now, this isn't genetic. This isn't anything more than environmental impact of all the additional estrogens, and one of the big ones, and the hormones, is coming from our dairy. And this is going straight to our young children who are getting exposed to these high levels. Boys too are getting exposed to these high levels of estrogens from lots of different things in their environment, but dairy is definitely one of the bigger ones. So you're seeing these things too early. I mean, can you imagine 11 years old being married off because your body is physically capable of now reproducing? It's too young, and we really need to start to step back and think about that. So when you're in a position right now and you're hoping to become pregnant, the hormones of little girls are changing due to these kinds of things. So if you're consuming and have been consuming dairy at a very young age and still are, just know that the quality of the dairy is going to make a difference. But having dairy at all is an unnecessary step, and it's going to be creating inflammation, which also leads into the other two reasons, which was, number one, 75% of the population is lactose intolerant. 75%. Now, along with that, last year in 2018, food allergy testing among the top 5 most common was dairy. So, I mean, that's like trying to walk through a landmine. There are too many reasons, too high a risk, that it is very likely that you are allergic, if not lactose intolerant, to dairy. And among that, even if you're not, there's still the inflammatory markers and the hormones that are in the milk. It's not worth the risk. Those are all really good reasons to not even take the risk and just take the dairy out of your diet. And to do that, to take dairy out of your diet, let's talk about what dairy really is. Because I did have a client come to me. We'd been working together for a little while, and she says, I want to ask you some questions about my daughter because I was thinking about putting her on a probiotic. How do you feel about a probiotic? So then I asked her, I'm a big advocate of probiotics. I think they're great. We're missing a lot of nutrients in our foods. Gut health is a huge issue. And I'm like, yeah, it can be great at the right time. What's going on with your daughter? She tells me that she's having lots of stomach problems. She's not going to the bathroom very often. She's having a bowel movement once every 2 or 3 days. And lots of stomach pains. So I say, again, probiotics are great, but let's talk about her nutrition. What is she eating right now? And does she have dairy in her diet? Because a lot of people come to me and they'll start making these changes, but they don't apply it to their kids, not right away. Or they have a spouse who supports their idea but isn't supportive at home as far as they won't conform to do the same. So she tells me, well, the kids don't really have dairy. And this is what she says. You know, in the morning, they might have a little bit of yogurt. And then at lunch, they usually get like one of those little milks at school. And then string cheese maybe for a snack. And then we usually have a little bit of milk at dinner. But they don't really eat dairy. Okay, so this was a red flag to me because some of you may be looking at this like, of course that's dairy. But the thing was, it was the first time in my life I really thought like, man, some people don't even know what dairy is. So let's clarify what dairy is in your diet. So milk seems like an obvious. You know, milk that comes from an animal would be considered dairy. Specifically, cow is what it's mostly. Yogurts, cheese, including string cheese, cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is a big one because I know a lot of middle-aged and older people. Cottage cheese is kind of a popular one with them. It is in fact cheese, as the name dictates, and is made from milk, you know, as well. And then another big one is creamers. I'm not a coffee drinker. I've never liked it. It's one of my food allergies anyways, gives me heartburn. But coffee is one that sometimes people forget about because maybe they don't even fix their coffee. They just go through Starbucks or the closest cafe and a little bit of cream gets put into their mix. They know that they like the taste of it. They don't really think about the ingredients. Maybe it's the only place that they really haven't gotten rid of their creamer. So these things are, in fact, dairy. There could even be some I'm forgetting, but the point is all of that is considered dairy. And when I mean no dairy, I mean no time at all. None in your house. No milk, no creamer, no cheese, none of that. You know, some things that you can keep in are things like ghee. Ghee is a great fat from the dairy that is separated from the waters. It actually can be cooked at a little bit higher temperature because you can't cook butter at that high of a temperature. And it still has that creamy taste and you're not getting the lactose or the casein or different things that people are allergic to. So these are things to start thinking about when you're going through your fridge, kind of trying to decide what's dairy. We need to get it out of here and see the benefits. People who take out dairy immediately, I have seen results like decreased acne, decreased abdominal pain, decreased menstrual symptoms like cramps, decreased arthritis, because I'm telling you, the inflammation and the inflammation response that people get from dairy is so impactful that by taking it out, you will see a huge decrease in inflammation, and how that shows up or how impactful that is going to be different individually. For the purposes of fertility, this is going to be huge because you're taking out the inflammation and the additional hormones that you were getting from the animal. And when that happens, you're going to make it a lot easier for your body to decrease its inflammation and release toxins like we've been talking about and start to re-regulate the system of your hormones, which is getting them back to where they need to be. So a couple things. I know that sometimes it can be hard or challenging to replace the milk. I have family members that I've been trying to get them to take cheese out of their diet for years, and it's just something they won't give up. They don't seem to mind waking up with the, the mucousy throat all the time, the crusty eye burgers, the runny nose almost immediately when they wake up in the morning or right after they eat these things. I mean, these are red flags that you have eaten an allergy. And again, like I said, 75% of people are lactose intolerant. Top 5 food allergens. So most people are having some sort of response, and if not allergic, still some sort of inflammatory response, like the aches in the joints. So again, this family member I specifically have that won't give up cheese, has the mucousy throat, the sinuses, sinus draining, the aches in the joints, but will not give up cheese. So what are some replacements? Because it can be a challenge. It's practically an addiction, right? We just covered that. So what helps to replace that in the meantime? As far as milk goes, like with baking or just drinking straight, nut milks are great. I usually go with coconut milk or macadamia milk because the coconut milk has that thick, fattier consistency, which is really great for cooking. The macadamia milk has the same thinner consistency, and as long as you get the unsweetened one and unflavored, it tastes very, very similar. It has a great nutrient value, and you're getting your calcium, your vitamin D, your B12. So it's a great, well-rounded one to add if you're trying to replace. I've baked with both of those. I don't cook with rice milk or oat milk, and we don't drink that at the house. That is just a concentration of way too many carbohydrates, kind of like drinking juice. And we stay away from some of those as well. Rice and almonds are a food allergy for me as well, so I don't cook with those, but those are other alternatives. You're definitely wanting to check your ingredients and making sure that, like I said, when things come in a box or a can, you're going to want to check your ingredients and make sure it's not this huge list of a million different things. You want to make sure there's no carrageenan in there. Carrageenan is a clotting mechanism that they sometimes use for alternatives to get to stay together, and what that does is has the same impact on your digestive system and on your blood, so you'll have more of the clotting effects, and we don't want that. In fact, it's the ingredient in processed lunch meats that they've told pregnant women in the past, don't consume lunch meat. Well, carrageenan is the ingredient they were telling you to avoid. So looking for that when you are using some of these ingredients. Same thing with cheeses. You can get alternative cheeses that are made out of coconut. I recommend staying clear of the ones made with soy. Soy is, like corn and wheat, the top most genetically modified foods in our country, and soy is incredibly high in estrogen. So anytime you're looking for one of these cheese alternatives or yogurt alternatives, make sure there's no soy lecithin in it, or it's not made with soy milk. Definitely steer clear of that, especially when you're working on rebalancing and regulating your hormones, or making sure your husband has his hormones intact, because you don't want him consuming too much estrogens either. So you can do that with your dairies and your cheeses. Coffee creamers, some great, I wrote a couple of these down, some of my favorite ones. Vital Proteins is a great brand. They make a coffee creamer in a bunch of different flavors. And what's cool is, and Ancient Nutrition, they have some different flavors, coffee creamers. And then Bulletproof also makes another one. What's cool about all three of them is they're designed more like a collagen. So you're not only taking the dairy out of your diet and replacing it with alternative creamer, but you're also getting collagen, which is a form of protein that supports the collagen in our body. So things like your skin, your hair, your nails, your joints, things like this. So it's really a win-win to replace your creamer and get rid of the crap milk creamers and start using one of these collagen creamers. And some of them are flavored in French vanilla with actual natural flavorings, and there's no high fructose corn syrup or anything. So definitely check these out and let me know what you think about them. If you need any help finding them, or need to revert back to this video for names or other brands, just let me know. I can give you lists of places you can go to look for that. Again, I hope you are enjoying these videos. I love getting to talk to you about all the different things and different steps that I've taken in my past to help you get back to more balance, whether you're just trying to balance for health, whether you are looking to become pregnant, or whether you've already become pregnant and have been working through the postpartum side effects of some of these irregular hormone balances. Stay with me and continue to watch these videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Share this with all your friends. You just never know. Fertility is so private. You never know how far-reaching or how many people you may know that are suffering from or struggling with fertility and just haven't shared it with you yet. So again, I hope you enjoyed my video. Thanks for joining me here with Victorious Essentials, and have a great day.